like Scarlet still being sent to laboratories in the UK from places like this just behind us. Surely each one of us knows in our hearts that can't continue. The public will be outraged by the fact that dogs have been factory farmed here to be sent to contract testing labs across the UK. There comes a moment in any movement's history where something happens and things change forever, and this is it. That moment has arrived. We've waited a long time for this. They've been selling beagles off this site for almost 50 years now. Hundreds of thousands of dogs have left here to die in laboratories across the UK. If ever you needed a reason to stand up, you're looking at her right here. Look into her eyes. It's all you need to know. I'd urge the police also, look at this dog. Before you condemn us or try and treat us as terrorists or fanatics, remember this is why we're here, for dogs like Scarlet.
Investigation found almost 5,000 beagles confined to barren kennels and cages, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, at this massive breeding mill. For more than 50 years, various companies have bred dogs at this dog factory farm to sell to laboratories, which kill them in experiments. The company that owns this facility also operates facilities in the UK. Here, a supervisor with no veterinary training inserts a needle into a puppy's head without anaesthetics in a crude attempt to drain fluid from a wound. Workers with no veterinary training put some puppies down by trying to inject euthanasia solution into their hearts, causing excruciating pain. Deprived of any opportunity to run, play, and simply act like dogs, these beagles just pace back and forth and jump up and down. The qualities that make these small, gentle, eager-to-please beagles great companions also make them animal experimenters' preferred victims. Over the course of the investigation, the PTUS eyewitness found more than 350 puppies dead among their live littermates and mothers. Some puppies fell through the holes in the cages and ended up in the drains, soaking wet and covered with feces, bedding and waste. After a few weeks, these loving, devoted mothers were taken away from their puppies so that the puppies could be sold to experimenters. These dogs should live as all dogs deserve to, in loving homes, but thousands of them remain imprisoned in this breeding mill, suffering, destined to be sold for painful, pointless experiments around the world.
Okay.
How's that full way?
Now we need to prepare for them to go out.
The law is wrong here. It is wrong. It has to end. The law has to relinquish its defence of the trade in beagles to research labs. It has to. And we're going to make sure it does. We have to. And if that means challenging the law, we have to do that as well. It comes down to a very, very basic principle. and that is the protection of a life from suffering. And there are 2,000 lives in there that should not be suffering, that should not be ending their days in a laboratory from 16 weeks old. We must end this. And I will say again to the police, you must think very, very hard about the laws that you defend. Because history will look back on this and it will see that we were right and the law was wrong.
But what I can say for certain is that the overwhelming majority, almost all, if not all, of the experiment, and there's zero medical value. For one thing, oftentimes it's not even done ostensibly to find a medical cure. It's done to perfect cosmetic products or industrial chemicals or things having nothing to do with human health. But even in the cases where they're doing it as part of FDA approval, most of the time, medications that are up for FDA approval will pass the safety phase when they try it on monkeys or dogs or cats and then fail in humans, because even the 2 or 3% difference in our genetic code between dogs and monkeys and cats on the one hand and humans on the other, that sounds like a small difference, is actually enormous. So that almost always these experimentations are medically worthless. The immorality of it is so extreme. I mean, they breed the dogs that have the characteristics that are most inclined to make them love humans. Beagles in particular have long been known for being most eager to engage in behavior that pleases humans, and that makes them very docile, which makes them ideal subjects for experimentation because they don't fight back and resist.
The message is very clear. You cannot continue this evil train. You cannot continue to sell these innocents to the contract testing laboratories to suffer and die in pointless research.
Free! Free! The beagle!
We want freedom! We want justice! 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 We want freedom!
For the beagle!
We want justice! We want freedom! We want justice! We want freedom! We want justice!
Get back!
At Camp Beagle, it's just like today, peaceful, otherwise they'll crush us and then we'll go away and then the company will go back to anonymity. We're gonna stay peaceful and every day keep sending military load of coppers, because every time you do it, we beam it all over the world, because you are being used for political purposes. Make no bones about it. Yes, of course I will, officer. Of course, because if I don't, you will immediately arrest me.
Oh, go on then, mate. Up you go.
These two have just pushed and shoved me for standing on the road.
Police are here because it's their job. They protect MBR property. Sometimes they help when old people get mugged. Sometimes they turn up here at MBR-Acres and handcuff 74-year-old women. Sometimes they help arrest animal abusers, except when it's behind their backs in MBR and covans. Sometimes they stop violence against women, except maybe when it's one of their own perpetrating that violence. I myself has been assaulted on 4 occasions outside MBR-Acres by policemen. I was assaulted 3 of those 4 times immediately before I was arrested for assault against a police officer. This officer was the perpetrator of the 4th assault that I suffered. I myself am trying very hard to remain professional with the police. It's hard when that isn't reciprocated. I feel sorry for them for the most part, but when they abuse their position at a peaceful protest camp and the killing of puppies, we must stand up and say no more. The 5th time I was assaulted by a policeman, I was verbally abused. I was shouted at and had demands that I answer questions that I was not legally obliged to answer. At least 3 other male police officers witnessed this. I had just disclosed I was feeling vulnerable and had been touched inappropriately by 4 male police officers. I'm furious that people are attempting to take my voice away and abuse their position of power because they wear a uniform.
More and more police are coming to police us every day, even though our tactics have got an injunction against us, and we've been negotiating with the police all this time to try and keep it peaceful. You will do anything you're told to, even if that means facilitating doing everything you can with the whole might of the industrial military complex to get these puppies out. So don't tell yourself you're here to serve the community. Don't bother trying to pretend to yourself that you're here to facilitate the protest. Your gold command has changed the goalposts. We are more peaceful than we were 10 days ago, but more peaceful than we were 20 days ago. And you know what? We're going to stay peaceful. Because what you want today is us to run and shove at you and start kicking your shins and tell you how much we hate you. But we're one step ahead. We're going to stay peaceful.
Once you're done using these highly emotionally complex animals as though they're your commodity or your property, at least give them to us so we can find homes for them so they can spend the latter part of their lives being loved and just living a halfway decent life. And the government has even resisted that. Their view is once we're done with them, the easiest way is to dispose of them and extinguish their lives.
And you've seen Scarlet, and that's what it's about. Little dogs like Scarlet, the hundreds are in there waiting now for their freedom. Their freedom to be lived, their day of liberation, and their future in a happy home away from the horrors of a research laboratory. None of you would offer your dog to be poisoned to death in a contract testing lab. And yet these people at MBR-Acres, these businessmen, and let's not mess about here, this is a business. It's a corrupt business, it's a business that has no place in the 21st century, scientifically or morally, but it still exists as a business. They trade on those dogs' lives.
Thanks very much for having me to speak today. It's very good of you. And at least we got some sunshine and some support. So first of all, this place, it's a disgrace that this is going on in Britain in the 21st century. This is disgusting, and it disgusts me, and I'm quite sure it disgusts a lot of the veterinary profession. Most vets, don't forget, are people that love animals. They don't want to see this going on. The problem with this at the moment is that this is legal. That's the problem with this, is that it's legal. But it was also legal once to own slaves. I was thinking, well, dogs, they get more rights. Did you know they get more rights, dogs? they get more rights than other animals because they've been in our homes a long time, they get more rights. So one of the things you're not allowed to do with a dog is run a puppy farm. Puppy farm is not allowed in the UK. There's been a lot of new legislation clamping down on puppy farms. Now, as far as I can see, what there is behind those gates is a puppy farm. But what these dogs do is they shine a light on the evils of vivisection in this country and throughout the world.
Scarlet is why we're doing this. Beagles like Scarlet, who was used in a laboratory, is exactly why we're fighting this campaign. So have a look at her. She's a beautiful, beautiful little soul. Just like every one of those beagles behind us.
Today we are here because, interestingly enough, the debate that was going to happen in the House across the road today about banning animal testing, I think is the first time that animal testing will have been discussed in the House of Commons. It's a procedure that's been happening for about 200 years. It is shocking, it is disgusting, and it is of course a waste of time because animal testing is a total failure in terms of a predictor for human diseases. In fact, any other business that had a 90% plus failure rate would be out of business. And the 10% that actually gets through is luck and not science. And but I think we all get a bit kind of sucked in when the vivisectors ask us questions like, well, what are you going to choose? I mean, is it going to be your son, your daughter, your partner, your parent, or an animal? And of course, the general population will say, well, I choose an animal if anyone has got to suffer. And this is also linked to the fact that we are committed to dominion, because we believe that we have power over all other animals, and if we're prepared to eat all other animals, then why not use them for medical research or anything else? It's absolutely shocking. But here's a few examples of the real human harm and fatalities caused by applying the results of animal data to human patients. Penicillin stayed on the shelf for over a decade because the rabbits Fleming tested on led him to believe it would be ineffective in humans. 100 HIV/AIDS vaccines were tested in animals, including non-human primates. 0 worked in humans. Scientists were misled about how HIV enters the human cell because of studies in monkeys. The polio vaccine was delayed by decades because researchers using monkeys believed that the route of entry of the polio virus was via the respiratory system rather than the digestive system. The inventor of the polio vaccine, Dr. Albert Sabin, testified under oath in the US House of Representatives, stating progress was long delayed by the erroneous conception of the nature of human disease based on misleading experimental models of the disease in monkeys. The cardiopulmonary bypass machine killed the first patients it was used on, and it was only after human data was used that the machine was made safe. HIV vaccines that protected monkeys have actually increased the risk of contracting HIV in the volunteers that took the vaccine. The flip side of all this is the fact that society has lost cures and treatments. US-based National Cancer Institute has said that we've lost cures for cancer because studies in rodents have been believed. You know, we are all being forced, and certainly the MPs who will be discussing animal testing will have all been lobbied by the most powerful lobby on the planet, and that is the vivisection community. They are getting misinformation and they are not listening to the stats. The stats that we know, and I repeat, the 90% failure rate, which would put anyone else out of business. I'm sure a lot of you may have heard of an ethical policy that was introduced in about 1959 that called the 3 R's. Are you all familiar with the 3 R's? Yes, the reduce, refine and replace. Now that is the very policy that is handcuffing charities like PETA and the RSPCA and many of the big charities from campaigning in a very aggressive manner to end animal testing, because they have to campaign within the confines of the 3 Rs, and the final part of the 3 Rs, which is replace with when an alternative is found to animal testing. Well, of course, animal testing is such a total failure. The only alternative to animal testing is animal testing, because what you need to find is a viable replacement, which of course animal testing isn't. The quickest way to ban animal experiments is to hold the public scientific hearing, which is the EDM 175. Well, I think it's a very, very important debate that has to happen. If we have the debate, then it is going to stop animal testing immediately. What surprises me is if the vivisectors who believe so strongly that what they're doing is right, why don't they jump at this debate so as they can prove to everyone that what they're doing is right? But they won't do that because they're frightened of it. They're frightened of debating it because they know it's wrong, they know it's financially driven, the work that they're doing. It is disgusting, and it is up to all of us to stop it.
Free the MBR-Acres!
That's it, absolutely. Say it again. Free the MBR-Acres. Yes, absolutely.
This place here is responsible for what happens to those dogs. It's responsible for those dogs leaving MBR-Acres yesterday, and they need to feel the anger, right? Otherwise there's no point being here. Cambridgeshire police know full well that their involvement with MBR is an involvement which means they are complicit, absolutely complicit in those dogs suffering. And they know full well that they are going to die slowly and agonisingly painful death over 90 days without no pain relief. And for what? For a flawed science that the science community is now saying has no relevance. So how can it be justifiable for these poor dogs to go through that? The reason we've come here today is for this place. It's for the Home Office. It is important. Politically, it's important for those dogs that these people in here understand that they are responsible. There is a chain of command here that goes from this Home Office down through the likes of MBR, the likes of LabCorp, and down to the researchers themselves, through the licences that these people give them. Dogs are suffering now. This is not tomorrow or next week, it's now. Right now, and we need to do something about it right now, right?
Yes! Prissy Patel, shame on you! Prissy Patel, shame on you! Shame on you! Prissy Patel, shame on you! Cambridgeshire Police, shame on you! Cambridgeshire Police, shame on you! Free the MBR-Acres! Free the MBR-Acres! Free the MBR-Acres! Close down MBR! Close down MBR! MBR! Close down MBR! Close down MBR! Close down MBR! We want freedom for the beagle! We want justice for the beagle! Free the MBR-Acres! Free the MBR-Acres! Free the beagles! Free the beagles! Free the beagles! Shame, shame, shame on you!
Richard Patel, as head of the Home Office, has gone on the record as saying you were shocked by what you saw at MBR Dog Factory. Well, being shocked isn't enough. Being shocked simply will not do. What we want now is action. What we want now is commitment. A commitment to end this, to put a stop to this trade in dogs to the research industry. And you can do it, and we're holding you to account. The pressure is growing. The people are demanding an end to this. Do not turn your back. We will not accept that. We demand action now from this government to end the suffering of beagle dogs in the research industry. The American company has no right whatsoever to continue in this misery, in this trade of misery and suffering.
Everybody should be able to taste life, to taste freedom. The beagles in there, they never see the sky, they never smell a blade of grass, they never smelt the freshness in the soil, and they never will. This is a complete and utter total denial of everything that life means. We have the numbers. We have the numbers. We do have the power, but it's the mindset that's lacking. The mindset, the self-belief to realise all we have to do as a movement is say, we are all going to go and put our feet on the ground, and we're going to get our feet wet and our hair wet if we have to, and the whole ball game will change so quickly.
Yeah, it'd be great to get more people protesting, demonstrating, but even people that can't do that, they can still do other things. They can boycott charities that support vivisection. They can support charities that are promoting humane alternatives to animal experiments, charities such as Safer Medicines and animal-free research.
What we're calling for is a scientific review, and that scientific review will be conducted by independent scientists that are leading in their field across many different disciplines. And that's absolutely vital, because we have the proof that the use of animals in medicine is all harming not just the animals used, but also humans as well. It's actually delaying the development of medicine, and it is releasing medicines that may actually have harmful side effects in human beings. So we're calling on all dog lovers, all animal lovers, no matter who you are, you have to stand up, you have to write to your MP, you have to follow the campaign. You can go to www.thecampbeagle.co.uk, and you can find us on social media at Camp Beagle Official. And you can join this protest. We can shut down this beagle breeding facility, and we can be part of ending vivisection for good. This is our chance, and we believe it, and it has to happen.
Shut